ladies and gentlemen. Today we have with us the dynamic duo, Ravi Hirpara and Jignesh Hirpara, directors Jayshri Propack logging in from Ahmedabad, India. Jayshri Krishna, a very good afternoon to both of you.
Jayshri Krishna, good afternoon. Thank you for giving us this opportunity.
Pleasure is all ours. Jayshri Propack needs no introduction. They have emerged as the premier manufacturer and exporter of barrier flexible packaging and offer technologically advanced films worldwide. Very warm welcome to Insights with Nidhi Verma. This question I was always wanting to ask all these years, but now I have my opportunity. Your journey has been a very interesting one, from the biggest sari hand printing manufacturer to the construction business, then into flexible packaging. I also hear that parallelly, you're very strong in textile mills also. Which vertical is closest to the family?
I think textile has been the family business. It's still the core business. We as a family are still recognized by the textile business, which was started 45 years ago with our elders, who got into that business. But when all of us were studying separately in a different part of the world. I was studying in US, Hiren was in Australia, and Jignesh was finishing his IT engineering. And when we got back together in the year 2007, 2008, we always were inclined to doing something different. We were not interested in the textile business, but the platform, what we wanted to create was something different. Overall, all of us were interested in the retail segment, I would say, retail and something to do with the packaging, but we had no idea how to go about it. So that started the whole journey. So that being said, during that time, we also started a construction company where we were trying to get some experience in terms of dealing with the market, the finance, the accounting aspect, and getting to know overall business, because we were very raw. I think this was when we were 26, 27 years old, just finished our education. And that became a base for us. And then slowly we started looking into packaging. So now packaging journey from the year 2008-9 till today. So in April, we completed 10 years of production. Has been challenging. There were a lot of ups and downs, but overall we are satisfied where we have ended up in this 10 years. So let's see what is in store for the next decade. But it's an exciting time right now in the packaging business.
It is well begun is half done, Ravi, as they say. And I think both of us, you started your packaging, and I also started my small venture Elite Plus about 11 years back. So we are in the same time frame, so as to say. You created a niche by being the pioneers and trendsetters in the downward co-extrusion barrier lines. You developed a completely new segment in the market for food packaging. Congratulations, and very well done at that. You risked into a new technology which not many were into when you had come into the flexible packaging, which is a very old business here in India. Based on what factors you made this very different decision? You could have also done with cast films. They were the conventional route to get into the product that you were looking into.
I think it's very simple. How do you differentiate yourself? It's with a population of 1.5 billion people, right? You are always trying to create something new, trying to offer something new to the customers. With the base what we had in barrier films and the journey what we had covered in last when we started from 2010 to 2014 when we made the decision. I think we were looking for a different technology rather than just being a go-to supplier for most of the packaging manufacturers, most of the customers who go to the packaging manufacturers. So when we were scouting, as I said, we were scouting this technology, we have always been in talks with WNH, which is our machine supplier. And if there's something new in the market, we would always ask them the right questions, what is the technology, rather than just having a vague view that this is what is being offered in the market. That is when the Water-quench technology came into existence. Before that, Hiren and myself, when we were there in 2010 in Langridge, we had seen the technology, and very bullishly and jokingly we said that who would spend so much money, and who would be some crazy entrepreneur business person who would invest in such a technology. We ended up being the first ones in India and South Asia. So we also had a good laugh about it. Yeah. Rakesh Bhai was there during that phase.
Yes.
But yeah, so that technology was offered to us and we found it very interesting. It's somewhat aligned with the products we were offering in the Indian market. And also it gave us the base to create an export market. Not many companies from the barrier arena were doing well in the export segment from India. And India was not taken as a serious player. So really we wanted to focus on the quality and put a name out there that there is a company in India who's really doing a good job in terms of barrier films, and we are here with a state-of-the-art setup with all the right certifications, and we can do justice to your requirement. So that thing led to the whole process of getting into this technology. When you compare it with cast, it has its own advantages and disadvantages. But since our focus market were vertical form films, thermoforming films, high definition printed films, this technology suited the right when you compare to the cast films. And not to mention the clarity that it offers. The clarity is remarkable. It's amazing clarity, which is used in the retail shelf presentation. So that was one of the main reason to getting into this technology.
Okay, so you had your export market in your view and your focus right from the very beginning, even before deciding on the technology.
Oh yes, because I think till 2014 we were pretty much doing 1%, less than 1% of our entire production in exports. Once we got into this technology, I think from 2015 onwards, we started building up the export market, and then
yes,
started.
The journey really began then.
Yes.
Okay. Your high barrier films, as you mentioned, are very superior in thickness, in clarity, transparency, huge applications in the food segment for lids, for trays, maybe meat in the export markets, not so much in India. Could you throw some light on some more specific applications that your films are providing?
Currently, the films which we export are ideally what you have just described. But what stands out of these films are more of, I would say, the next generation films where you require added on advantages like you need, I would say, resistance to, the transit resistance is required. Then you would require people associate a lot of things with clarity as well as see-through combinations of films. And with the technology that we entered into, there are not number of players that could give such kind of properties as well as clarity, and that gave us an edge over a lot of customers. And what happened was, we changed how we do our business from 2015. We more of as a company, we implemented a lot of systems in the company. So that gave us an edge in terms of servicing a client as well as attending to each and every details of the filmmaking. And initially a year of installation of this line taught us a lot of things about how to manufacture the film in the right way. And being a pioneer initially, I would say we were hardly, you can count 7-8 companies globally who were into this business. That led us to a significance in terms of associating barrier films with Jayshri in the developed market also.
I think what happened, Nidhi, is that if we look at all our competitors in the foreign markets, most of them are all $1 billion+ companies.
Yes.
We
yes,
are competing with the giants. So
yes.
Jayshri is a small boutique company sitting in India, and we are trying to make that impact in the global market as well as India. And that was the message we wanted to give out, and create the right environment where the customers can openly discuss things with us, and then we can provide them the right technology. And this was one of the tools to get into the global market.
Yes, I'm sure that all your strategies that you thought over across a drawing board have been implemented very well, because you have been able to make that niche that you had targeted amongst the market that was already, some very, very old players are already there.
There's a lot of pressure from the Indian market because everybody was looking at people who are in the barrier segment, multi-layer films. They were looking at what Jayshri is going to do with the technology, because a lot of people didn't have any idea that what can be made on those machines. And we ended up having a product mix of 6 to 7 good products, which we are now expanding to 20 different product lines.
The biggest irony would be that, I mean, when we decided to get onto the Water-quench line was, we were clocking a sales of around 50 odd crores. And we had thought of investing around 45 crores for the expansion. So something we had thought about in the kind of business that we are into. And with a company which is very young, I mean, in 2014, we were quite young. Yes. And taking this step was something, a risk as well as something innovative to add to our product line. I mean, and successfully today, I mean, if you just see our growth, I mean, we have been growing every year, we've been growing around 20%. Maybe that could be bottom line as well as the top line also. And this year, again, we'll be adding around, we've invested around 5.2 million euros in the new setup, which we will be operational by July, end of July.
What a beautiful timing also. When the flexible packaging is taken off, like it's completely gone, tangentially grown, and what a beautiful timing. Congratulations again there. I have to see how you make your strategies. I have to sit with you on the drawing board with all three of you and others and actually see, because all your strategies are actually falling right.
One thing is, the biggest thing is that the risk appetite in three of us is quite high as of now. And if you see the kind of investment we have, the challenges, I would say, the kind of challenges we take up is something which defines the whole company. I mean, it comes from the top. I mean, the management, I guess, our fathers as well as our elders who have, I guess, it is a DNA which has come into us in terms of taking challenges and maybe, I mean, thinking beyond the boundaries, I would say. I mean, investing into these kind of machines ahead of the top tier companies.
Totally.
A lot of things
ahead of its time.
Ahead of time.
And I'm saying they must be so proud of you. You know, all your elders must be very proud of you that, yes, we gave them the liberty to almost invest everything that was in your balance sheet. And these boys have not come back and said, oh, what do we do now? So very well done.
Gujarati family, you know, the parents, especially the fathers, they are never satisfied. So, you know, they'll always throw a challenge. They'll always throw a curveball at you. You know, okay, you've done this. Now, what is next?
And these, yes, and I think your elders, they have already done themselves also so well that the expectations would have, of course, the bar would have been set higher. So coming to my next question, I wanted to understand from you, Jignesh, that what are the applications that for which your films are being exported, different from what they are being used in India for?
Basically, in India, it is more of the liquid packaging that most of the players, competitors, I mean, use it. But for the exports market, it is thermoforming ideally, and there are liquid films which we are currently developing for B2B segments, as well as we are also developing films which are high punch resistance, because you have these kind of properties enhanced in the water-quench process itself. So you do not need to invest into other methods to increase your punch resistance and certain properties. So that is one segment. Cheese is one area where we are doing a lot of development, and we have developed proprietary solutions for cheese. And currently we are working with a few channel partners in the countries wherever we export. And we have been grateful in terms of our growth to them also. The reason is because in these times also we have never had any downward kind of sales at our part, and on the contrary, this quarter has been one of the best in last 10 years. So this speaks about the products that we make and the products that are demanded by our customers. So these are the few products which we export. I mean, thermoforming is ideally there, like in pouches, proprietary bags for cheese. Then you have films and pouches which are used for fresh produce in the Western countries. And a lot of developments go on because there's always a hand-holding process that happens from these Western countries, which you do not see ideally in India. That is why we don't have much of innovations happening in India. And there's a collaborative effort from these clients where they are ready to pitch in for the commercial value as well as the trials and everything. And that is why developments are very, I mean, they form a very good part of the company as a whole. And we are open to development in terms of whenever a client demands that we want such kind of things to be there, imparted in the films. And every day you do not see success to it. I mean, you do not have out of the 10 developments you do, you might see a success of 2 or 3 products. So for us, we have been, last 10 years, I've been seeing these kind of products development that has been happening. And we have been successful through these kind of processes and taken the company to the place where we are.
Super. Is it not possible that whatever applications that you mentioned right now that you're giving in the export market, if you offer them to the Indian market also, most of them would be taken by the customers, no?
The market is very small for the applications that we export, the packaging that we export. And what happens is, as a company, we always believe in having a closed ecosystem of innovation. You cannot have innovation done only by a supplier. You need to have a collaborative effort from the brand owner, the user. So what happens is, and why there's a lot of difference in the Western countries and in India. There's a larger difference when we talk about innovation, why it happens in these countries. What happens is there's a hand-holding that happens in these Western countries. The cost is amortized in the product. The same thing does not happen in India. I mean, it is in isolation. You have a development.
I think it's very important, yeah.
And that is why you see, I mean, we have never moved beyond. See, if you just talk about countries down South Asia, I mean, talk about Thailand, Indonesia, you see a good amount of development. The reason is because what is happening is there's a lot of hand-holding from companies which come from, maybe you talk about Japan, you talk about other countries, there's a lot of hand-holding. But in India, you don't have hand-holding from brand owners. Now, when you talk about, for example, you have sustainability. I mean, if you ask us, sustainability came in 2016 for people. But when we thought of investing into the Water-quench line in 2015, we have thought about replacing all the convenience goods in a monopoly structure. So in 2015, this thought was given. What happens in India, you don't have people who can try your films. Being a small company, no one recognizes the strength of.
I think the brand, FMCG brand owners have to take the initiative. They have to hold the hands, and then work with you through the whole process, because it's an expensive process. You know, these lines are not easy to run. It requires very expensive reasons, and if there's no hand holding, then it discourages us to have some development done in India. That being said, that we are, whatever developments what we do for the foreign markets, we are offering in India, but the Indian market is not ready for some of the products, because we do a lot of meat, say for example, meat packaging. We do a lot of seafood packaging, right? So in India, the consumption cycle is so fast that we don't require that amount of
it goes directly
life.
from directly to the consumer only. There is no packaging required.
Yeah, and then even if it's on the shelf, it will be hardly for 3, 4, 5 days. And when in the foreign countries, when you compare to the foreign countries, they would require a shelf life of 30 days, 60 days, and in some products up to 90 days. So that films are very complex in nature with the right combination of barrier that needs to be.
Okay, so you are actually ahead of the curve for the Indian market.
Yes, but we are educating people, because what happens, Nidhi, is that this is going to help the Indian market.
Sure,
we are wasting a lot of food in India. I mean, huge amount of food is being wasted, and especially in a situation like this, the COVID situation, where food. I mean, we are blessed to be in states where the food is not a problem. But if you look at pan India, there are some states where food was a challenge, and getting it across the borders was also a challenge. So that's where the packaging would play an important role, and is playing an important role. Right?
So once I think the right focus comes in, we have a company here, right here in India, who are supplying to the world market. So I'm sure that people are going to wake up to that soon. Are you also supplying your films to the pharma and the medical sector?
Currently, we have just started supplying for the secondary packaging. So that is a developmental phase. Currently, we have not done commercial supply as of now. But we are working with a MNC in the pharma space. We have just supplied them secondary packaging. So going further, we see a good amount of business that we could see in the pharma business also. And eventually we might think about, once we see some success, we might think about developing few more products for this sector.
I think medical arena, especially the medical film, not much has been done in the Indian market. Most of the films what we are getting is from the foreign countries. So down the line, Jayshri Propack would like to explore that. That has been in our long-term vision and goals. All the three co-founders are aligned with that, and that is something that we're going to start exploring after 2023. But yes, definitely we'll look into that market in a big way.
Because packaging plays a bigger part in pharma that is known. I mean, we've always known, like for example, you have a blister packaging or maybe the tablets which you take. This is the only packaging that we know now. I mean, there's a lot beyond these things also.
And all of them, most of it is imported, as we see. So Atmanirbharta will come into with Jayshri Propack.
And then the country, as I said, it's all about numbers. We have 1.5 billion people. You have to solve their problems. We can't just rely on exports. And being Indian, sitting in India with a manufacturing base,
and really coming down from abroad. I mean, a lot of MNCs coming and taking over companies in the packaging space. I mean, it makes no sense that we expand too much of our export business and don't cater to the Indian market. We have to find some or the other way to serve the Indian market.
आप पे हमारा हक पहले है, बाहर का बाद में. What was the marketing strategy behind branding of films? You have given different names to different films, which is very interesting. I want to understand how that came about.
I think what we have done is we created one umbrella, which is JAQVA Plus. It's a very simple story. This technology is called Aquarex, right? When we were registering the brand, we could not get the spelling Aqua. So we had to twist the U into V, right? And then put J. Some countries where we are starting exports now in South American countries, J is silent. So it automatically becomes Aqua Plus. Or if you say J, it's JAQVA Plus. Plus is because all the film properties are going to be plus. So when you're comparing it with traditional films, everything from all the puncture resistance, mechanical strength.
So that is why you have a plus over it. So the properties are enhanced.
And then even the recall.
I kind of resonate with you. So I kept my company's name Elite Plus. So and then I put a 2 plus on top. They said it looks like a medical conference. So I said, what to do now? So I took away the color from the plus. It was a huge thing. But yes, the plus comes saying that we are extra.
Plus is what happens. It's just a lingo going around. So you have iPhone Plus and this Plus.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the recall value is there. And then the reason we created the brand is because a lot of customers, once they know your films, they only speak in that language. They won't say Jayshri, they won't say Jayshri Propack, but they will say the brand name. What we have seen in the foreign market. So we wanted to, bring that culture to India and sort of start branding from the base. You won't see not many companies in India would brand their unless it's in a medical arena or in a special category. So we wanted to have one umbrella, and then we're going to create subcategories down the line.
Yes, I think I also resonate there. I've named my conferences the separate properties. So Elite Plus is of course behind that, but there's flexible packaging, injection blow molding, PVC, ICC. So they're going on their own. Agree with you. What demand pattern, Jignesh, have you seen difference in export market as well as in India during these 3 months? Has, because of the pandemic, the consumer behavior has changed. So have you seen some
India, it is
changing pattern?
We were into the convenience goods, I would say convenience goods business. Like for example, the liquid packaging that we do for edible oil or maybe any kind of edible food products. That demand had been strong. From April to May, it was very, very strong. And we also sell our films for specialized milk as well. Where you require a high barrier film. Those are milks which are ideally for remote places where you don't get, where processing of milk is not too common or delivery of milk is not.
And there's no cold chain.
There's no cold chain. So these kind of films are high barrier milk films. So that demand was very strong in April and May. And subsequently now the demand has flattened. I mean, I don't see a huge demand coming in the month of June. And globally what happened was we were into the essential part of it because meat is the essential food for the Western countries. And that demand came in very, very strong. I mean,
meat and cheese both, yeah.
Meat, cheese also was in high demand. So for us, last 2-3 months have been exceptionally, I would say, in terms of demand from the exports, demand for exports as well as locally has been tremendous. I would say, I mean, these 3 months, in terms of how to put it, they were the best in the last 10 years, I think. So things were good for us. And going further, we, as the new capacity comes in, we started adding a few clients as well globally. And locally, we are seeing the same kind of demand. There's not much of demand for any other products apart from the convenience goods. So that is how we are placed in terms of our
as you just mentioned, Jignesh, have you added new areas in the export markets during this pandemic? New customers that you found, new countries?
What has happened is with regard to China bashing globally, we have seen a lot of inquiries coming in from Southeast Asian countries like Indonesia, Thailand. You have countries from Singapore. They've started inquiring, and then there are Western countries like, for example, Australia, New Zealand. There is one. I mean, these are the places where you've started exporting because of the China issue.
I think, yeah. And then other thing is they wanted a reliable base. So the reason these countries, they were initially, when we used to try to contact them, it was always China, and their pricing. But with the COVID situation happening, people realizing what has gone wrong, and then we needed reliable, strong partners. They were looking for companies who have been already supplying to Western countries as well as the Middle Eastern countries who are very strong in their own country. And that led to surge of inquiries. And then, in fact, a lot of inquiries were coming through and we were converting at a very faster rate.
Yes.
I mean, generally inquiry would convert in, say, 45 days. This was 7 days. 7 days.
Oh, that's. I think this is going to be music to a lot of our listeners, because we have been talking about this China effect. And here is a company who's actually converting the shift of the converting and the buying to an Indian company. I think this could be a very good flag bearer, so as to say. What percentage? Sorry?
I think what happened is also they wanted a good base in terms of,
I mentioned.
say for example, English, a lot of people who are buying from the Western part of the world, they really have a hard time communicating. And this is something that they told us, when they were shifting from China, because they say, I think we're done with the pricing now. Price was the only criteria, but it's not the criteria now. We really want a strong, reliable partner who can, foresee the demand and work with us through all the seasons. So, and that's how, it's not Jayshri, but a lot of companies, a lot of our friends and peers in the industry have seen growth from neighboring countries. So yeah, it's a good thing for India. But again, we have to wait and see how much support we get from the government in terms of, expanding this China bashing and all that stuff. It's a different subject, but yeah, so far, so good.
You must hear the interview of Mr. Mudit Jain of DCW. It's on my YouTube channel, which was completely on what the industry really needs from the government. And he's been very unabashed about it, exactly spelling out where the government needs to come in to ensure that we get the China pie into India. What percentage of your total business is exports, Ravi?
We do around 60% right now. 60%, 60-40 is the ratio. With the new technology coming in, the 9-layer Water-quench, which again is the only machine in this part of the world.
Okay.
And we are looking at 80% exports in next 2 years. But we will be developing some special films for the Indian market, where the customer would get the whole packaging solution, rather not just the films.
So it is going to add more value to the customer. I mean, ideally, the film which as a company, we would entertain more of development on the value-based system rather than just a price. Because what happens is, in India being a very sensitive market for pricing, so adding certain values which would propagate your selling rather than just having a cheaper film, or maybe I would say a low-cost film. So that is how things have changed in the last 5 years as a company. Wherever we are not adding value, we do not want to be in those kind of segments. Wherever Jayshri is there, it is always known for either any of the boxes that you can tick apart from the price. That is how we have been known. I mean, ideally, the investment speaks about us, why we can invest into such kind of, I would say, expensive machines. It takes a lot of developmental effort, as well as transforming that the films to the end customer and then selling it to a certain price also. I mean, I'm not saying that we are going to sell something, but only for the sales part of it. But as a strategy, we see that adding value is more important than anything else.
Well understood. And I think that is your USP. That is, in a very short span of time, you've been able to kind of get huge, big brands as your customers. I think this value addition, new applications and innovations, what I understand from the market, is your underlying strength. So good to go from here. Did you face any challenges in this pandemic while you were exporting? Because most of your business is coming.
Ideally, if you ask me, we were closed for 7 days from April, from 23rd to 30th of 31st of March. We were closed. From first, what I saw is very different. I saw a lot of. I would just put it in the simple words that I value people now more than the profits that we made. The reason is that on the 1st of April, I saw the total department present on the day when we called them that we need to start off the plant. Only issues that we faced was, the transportation was a bit of a hassle, and the clearance at the port was a bit difficult. But then what happened was we managed because of the China. I would say the pandemic started from China. So in the month of January, we started planning a lot of things at our end. I mean, we unknowingly that it would come down to India in such a way, but unknowingly we just started planning out in terms of inventory and everything. So for us, we never faced any kind of issues in terms of non-availability of material or anything. So I would say we were in a very good space in the last 3 months.
And I think everything went well for you. When you compare your outside India customers with Indian customers, are the demands on quality vary a lot?
Of course, quality, and the other thing that people in India sitting down in India need to also see that service is of prime importance to the customers abroad. I mean, a commitment is a commitment. A commitment in India is very different to a commitment to a customer globally. So people, the first thing that someone has to realize is service is going to be of prime importance. Then someone is going to ask you for your price.
And I think it was more like a battlefront, because everybody was going through this crisis. Every country had its own share of problems, and that's where you need to step in and do the right thing for your customers. So we were there for them. They appreciated, and this is something that the bond is not based on any pricing or anything. It's a bond, and this is priceless. A lot of the customers who are with us right now, they're going to be loyal till we are up and running.
जब आपने कमिटमेंट कर दिया तो फिर अपने आप की भी नहीं सुनते उसके बाद. Really.
During such times, these things come.
Really count.
Exactly. You have your suppliers, like for example, our suppliers also have stood by us in these times. So we value those suppliers also on the longer relationships that we have been maintaining over the years. I mean, for us, as we are a family-owned company, we value relations of the most. We value our relations very much with our suppliers as well.
I think what Jignesh is mentioning is probably all the interviews what we have seen, or maybe in past also from different platforms. Not many people give suppliers the credit. So we are a supplier to our customer. There are suppliers, there are resin guys who work day in and day out for us. There are ink suppliers who are loyal to us and would be ready to supply in a jiffy. There are secondary suppliers, whether it's boxes, pallets, tapes, anything. So we sort of have in last 3 years made an effort that the suppliers should get the same amount of respect as a customer. Not many companies do that. They treat suppliers in a different way. We've heard stories from different suppliers. So we on this platform we would like to encourage that because somewhere we are also a supplier.
That's the news that I've heard for the first time. So yes, thank you for bringing that up, Ravi. I understand that there is a migration problem of the toluene-based inks into the food from the printing of the films. Are you shifting your technology to completely water-based inks now, or still toluene-based inks will continue?
We have both the technologies in terms of CI, Flexo, as well as the rotogravure. But I don't see much of a demand from any of the brand owners, because what happens is we could shift to water-based inks, but there is no latent demand in
Even
India
overseas,
as of
even
now.
overseas.
Overseas, I mean, we are not too much focused on printing for the overseas market.
Most of the films are
Most
plain.
of the films are plain films. Ideally, they're not printed. So most of the demand that comes for printing is from the Indian suppliers, Indian brand owners, and still there is no brand owner who would be requesting these kind of printed, I mean, inks that could be printed on their substrate. The reason is because these things are always going to be, I mean, what happens in Europe is not going to be copied in a country like India. I mean, we are a very different kind of a company with different SKUs, number of people in India, the demands are very different. So for example, what is happening is we do not need to copy what is happening in Europe or US. I mean, it is ideally a very different country, different culture, different demography we have, and different pricing for our packaging or our food. So I guess still it is very far off for someone in India to go into a water-based inks. People talk about it. It is a good subject to talk about it in India. But ideally, when you think about implementing it, there would be hardly one or two customers who are ready to pay for that. The reason is because what happens is when you're going to add value, you need to pay for it. I mean, you cannot get it for the same cost as what you are using a toluene-based ink or maybe any other solvents.
Okay, so it's a theoretical subject as of now.
Yeah.
I understand that the nylon and the EVOH based films are difficult to recycle, and this issue is going to catch up quite a storm now. What are your views on recycling of multilayer?
See, those films, if you look at it, they are different from the laminates. They are multi-layer barrier films. And there is a technology available where you can have the recyclability factor in that film. So the customers, we are educating the customers in that process. We are already supplying solutions in the market where our films, which are co-extruded barrier, are also recyclable. So we are offering that. I don't want to add much because it's an open platform, but it is a product which we have developed recently, and we are already offering it in the market right now. So for us, we have found a solution.
You have, good. Are the FMCG companies, because you're more overseas, are they coming and collaborating with you for innovations in recyclable packaging films? We had Mr. Surendra Patawari from Gemini, and he was underlying that in Europe, most of the FMCG companies have targets that what is the percentage of recyclable material that they need to put in their products. So are those companies coming forward and asking you for doing it?
Yes. So we, for example, we are working a couple of markets abroad where there's a supermarket chain called Woolworths. They are doing a product mix where they want to have a recyclable barrier solution. So we have been working, we are offering them pouches also as of now. So that is one company. And in India, GMI, we have done development with GMI.
It worked extensively for their products, which they had a lot of issues in terms of, variety of issues they had. And we have given them a monolayer kind of a structure where they are saving a lot of on their product, as well as they are saving a lot on the material that is being used to pack that SKU. And what we have done is ideally we work on a long-term project, because what happens is solutions are, the solution which you see, which is available to everyone is currently still people talk about a poly laminate. Idealistically, if you just analyze it, it is not that simple. You have different machines which are used to having a multi-layer structure. They cannot handle these kind of things. So there are a lot of issues where you need to study, you need to have a collaborative effort with the machinery guys, as well as the brand owners, as well as suppliers. And it is an extensive study to change a lot of things. People have been talking about sustainability on various platforms in the last 5 years. I would currently, if you ask me, still I'm not nowhere near, we are nowhere near about what we are talking and what we are doing. There's a larger gap between it. And what happens is we intend to be too fascinated by what happens in Europe and what norms are being implemented in Europe or maybe in the US. The reason you have to think about it, there the whole chain understands sustainability. It is from the brand owners to the customer. But in India, the whole chain has to consciously understand that sustainability is part of my job. And that is still not there. I mean, it is a broken chain. I mean, a brand owner would someday announce saying that I would have all my products recyclable, but you don't have a supplier who can supply at a certain price. So what is happening is we do not need to be so fascinated about sustainability. We need to look intrinsically within our own country that how we can add value, how we can add sustainability. And we are still 5-7 years far off. I mean, people talk about these things.
I think it's going to be
practically, I guess, I don't.
It's a complete different ball game. So yes, it is like still we are far away from the other developed countries, as you to say, Europe and all.
Because you require a total.
So it's a huge different subject. So I'm coming to my last two questions for you is that you are an innovation driven company. What targets do you keep for yourself to keep above the competition? I think not only in India, but overseas also. What keeps you driven to keep up the edge?
I think mostly it's to do with what we are, feeling on month-to-month basis and what we are seeing. So there are so many problems to be solved, so automatically innovation would become a part of that. If you start solving the problem rather than focusing on copying someone.
That's a true statement again.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. That's I've heard for the first time again, that when you're solving a problem, innovation itself happens instead of copying someone else.
Yeah. I think we never realized it, but I think when we started solving problems, the reason our customers are our customers because they know Jayshri. If we tell them something, first thing is our answer is yes and no sometimes. If it's a no, it's a straight no. If it's a yes, then we hold their hand and then take them through the whole journey and then tell them this is what's going to happen and this is how much money you're going to save. Because at the end of the day, the money becomes the bottom line for most of the companies. So that is one part. And then again, it's just a day-to-day process where, we are seeing problems and you keep solving it and then keep on adding the technology in the right kind of
I'm learning so much from this session, both of you. Any inventions that you have in line for the converting side? Films, we've talked enough.
I think we are present in converting, but not, see what we do is we convert our films into pouches. So we don't want to be, as I said, a typical a packaging supplier doing everything. But the pouches, what we are offering in the markets are different. The pouches, what we're offering with the barrier combinations, with some edge on that. People who have not done high definition printing on barrier, we are offering that in the pouches. We are offering certain wicket solutions from our in-house extruded films for the global market as well as the Indian market. We are in talk with a couple of big FMCG companies. But in terms of, people define converting, whether if you have a lamination machine or not, we are not solely focused on converting, but we want to extrude good films which can solve the problem and then focus on converting. Because the problem is making good films and getting the bottom problem addressed. So converting, there's so many converters in India. You can take help from a lot of partners in India.
So what are your next growth plans? We understood about the pharma and the medical that you said in 2023. For the next 2 years, what is going to be your growth plan? What are the new milestones that you've set for yourself?
I think it's
maybe getting the 9-layer
up and running,
and that would add
July
a lot.
is what you said, right?
Yes.
July and August.
July, it's under installation right now, so it should be up and ready. We are 4 months. We're running 4 months late because of the COVID situation. But once it's ready in July, we got an interesting product mix. We're going to offer 6 to 7 new products in the market, which the market has not seen. That's going to be a challenging phase for next 12 to 16 months. And then, as I said, by the time 2023 is here, we really want to focus on the medical packaging business, which is looking very exciting. So let's see how things pan out.
So I think you guys have done India proud. You have actually shown to the world that Indian companies can also give them a run for their money as far as quality, innovation and service is concerned, which was not the case earlier. So we are thanking you on our customers' behalf. And what a lovely session we had. Learned so much from you. And I think all our viewers are going to have one single takeaway minimum from this session. Thank you so much. And we are going to be keenly looking at what other new innovations are going to be coming out of Jayshri Propack's table. Appreciate a lot. And please say bye now.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye.